Hello, crafty friends. This is the Paper Chef here. In today's Brothers Scan and Cut Tips and Tricks tutorial, I'm going to show you how to cut out this cute little stamp that came today in my Warm Wishes paper pumpkin kit. I also already made one of the 3D boxes, but I thought, you know what? This is so easy. Let's just do this stamp because I can show you a few tips and tricks with it. The one tip and trick I'm going to show you is the pencil trick, because that's going to help you fill in the gaps on this image. The second tip and trick we're going to learn about is we're going to create, these are some cards and envelopes that you can get from Stampin' Up. They're plain. We're going to decorate this because we're going to take this little house, well, it's not really a house, the front of the house, and I'm going to show you how to make another layer on it using this gold paper, distressed gold cardstock or specialty paper, something like that. Okay, and then we'll also learn some coloring. So let's just get to it. Let's move this right here. We're gonna stamp right in this section. So it's already mounted onto the stamping block. So let's just start from there. Okay, I already mounted it. I've just been playing. Like I said, I just got it today. So I really only have a couple examples to show you. So you pull it off the little plastic thingy and you mount it onto your stamping block. And then you're going to use Memento black ink because we're going to color with our alcohol markers. Okay, and just, get a good image before you put it onto paper. Okay, let's find some basic white cardstock. All right, and I think I stamped it up real good. You can always test it on here. Nope, because the image is bigger than the stamp pad, you have to turn it upside down. I think I'll have a good image like that. So go ahead and do this twice because I want to give you 2 tips and tricks. So we need 2 different images for the purpose of this tutorial. Okay, so first, because I'm a teacher and I have to show you kind of the wrong way to do it first, because you're going to say, well, why do I need to do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And this is my teaching method, so I'm going to show you. So we're just going to stick this on, do nothing to it. And those of you who've been with my channel for a while are going to know what's going to happen. But you know what? We're going to do it anyway. So thank you all for your support of my channel. I have reached another milestone. I'm very appreciative. I'm just using some painter's tape to put it on there. I have reached 38,000 subscribers. So thank you very much for your support. I now have channel memberships. I've already had a Patreon group. I have channel memberships. All kinds of things have sprung off from this, such as my large team of demonstrators, such as Patreon memberships, channel memberships, a podcast, a Grow Your Crafty Business group. So, I really, really appreciate the growth of my channel. I really thank you so much. All right, so what I've done, you can't see what I've done, but I just loaded the mat. So now I'm going to turn this so you can see all the settings. Okay, kind of have to do that. Sorry. We're going to do this with the tripod. Turn. All right, so the first thing I did that you couldn't see is I loaded the mat. I'm just going to erase everything. And I'll even turn off this light so you can really see the settings. There you go. So I loaded the mat using this button here. So that's the first thing I did. And I'm just going to get, even though I was using my fingers, I'm just going to go ahead and get the stylus. So now what I'm going to do, now that the mat's loaded, I'm going to hit scan. And we're going to directly cut out these images, although we can't really directly cut out these images. So let's just say direct cut, and we're going to store it to the machine. I'm going to do this slower in a minute, but you're going to see what's going to happen. And I'll talk about the cutting area in a minute. Basically, I'm showing you what's going to happen when you first get your ScanNCut and you try to cut stamped images and you get frustrated because you're like, this doesn't work. It's a hot mess. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. But first, I want to show you what happens when you don't use the tips and tricks I'm going to share with you. And the tips and tricks are going to be coloring and the pencil trick. All right, so we have these images, and let's just zoom in and show you what we have. All right, here we go. You see that? All this mess? All right, so every little line here, disregard the fact that my mat is dirty. Okay, every little line here is going to cut out. this little window, this little tree, this little tree, this little house. I'm going to zoom in some more. You're going to have all of these things cut out. See the black line and this and this and this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see at least 5 shapes. Okay? And then you're going to get this confetti all over the place. Okay? Confetti meaning it's not going to work. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that before we fix it. So now what you need to do when you have images like this is you need to fill in the gaps. Okay? So I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to give you 2 tricks. One is just using a pencil to fill in all the gaps. So because the ScanNCut is a machine and it needs to know where the edges are when it's scanning in something. And if not, you don't define the edges, then it's going to define the edges as going inside and cutting out everything as a separate object. So all I've done is I've enclosed all these little gaps, even this gap. Now, why do I not care about this gap here? See that gap right there? I don't care about that. Here, let's point at it. Because that one is part of inside of the shape. All I care about, and here's kind of an idea, like a shape. Really, all the ScanNCut is, it could care less about the stamped image. It has no idea what you stamped. It really doesn't. People keep thinking you can save the stamped image. You can't. All you're doing is saving a vector graphic, the shape. You're saving the outline of the shape. So all it really cares about is the outline around the edges. Okay, so that's all it cares about. So you need to tell it where the outlines are. So now we're not going to do all the coloring right now. We're just going to do a little bit of coloring. Because you can either do the pencil trick or you can do the coloring trick. So these are 2 tricks at once. I'm showing you 2 tricks at once. Both tricks are going to enclose the gaps. Now, the first trick with the pencil trick is going to involve you erasing the pencil marks later. And this one involves you doing nothing later because you're just enclosing the gaps with the marker. This is an alcohol marker. Now, if you're going to commit to doing this to your trees, you don't have to worry about the door. The door is already enclosed. I'm just using the dark old olive because it's one of the coordinating colors of my project. Dark. And then I take my light old olive and I'm just going to fill it in. Pull in the color from dark to light. So in other words, you do the dark first and then you do the light, circular motions, or you can just pull in the color like that. Now, then this doesn't involve it's a lot easier to do the coloring trick because if you're going to be coloring anyway and you already know what color you're going to make them, then at least you have the edges well defined. But the pencil trick's nice because if you don't know what color you're going to make something, then what's really nice about it is you can erase it later and you can have all these cutout shapes and not worry about what color you're going to make them till later. All right, let's do it again. We're back to the square one. So now I'm going to do this a little slower so you really understand how to do this. You've loaded your mat. You have stamped images. Everything's good. Now you're going to turn on your machine and you're going to see pattern and scan. So I'm using the STX 125. This works with any model of ScanNCut. If you have something called a design and cut, you're not going to be able to scan. I hope that's obvious, but I get asked the question all the time. You need to have a ScanNCut to be able to scan. So you're going to see pattern and scan, and you're going to select scan. And now you're going to select direct cut because we're directly cutting out the stamped images. We're not saving them. We're just cutting them and moving on. Okay, direct cut. It's asking where do we temporarily store this information? Do we want to store the information on the machine or in the cloud? To the machine, easiest way. If your cloud is set up, your wireless network is fine. You can store it there. Next, it's asking you what the cutting area is. You don't have this option on the CM models, but in the STX models, you have this option. Because my stamped images are on the top of the mat, I'm going to select 12 by 6. Otherwise, it would take longer to scan in the whole 12 by 12. Okay, if you don't have that option, just skip that. But I am using 12 by 6. And no matter if we color them or not, because you have well-defined black lines, we're going to select the black and white recognition mode. 99% of the time, I use the black and white recognition mode, not the color. It's not needed. It's only because you're only recognizing the lines. Okay, click OK, click Start. And it's going to now scan in. Now notice what I did when I was scanning. Besides what is it called? Sticking, besides using painter's tape to stick the stamped images to my mat, I also turned off my video light, which is a side light. The lights above me in the room are not turned off, only the video light. So you don't want any side light shining through. All right, so this is great. It might look like a hot mess to you, but this is actually great because I can see that these are each one image now. So let's, first of all, if we want to just cut out these images, we need to select the area that we want. So we're going to select the area where the images are. Okay, this is one way to avoid things we don't want. Now, let's say you still have some of these little scratches on the mat or dirt on the mat, and they're still in my selection. On purpose, I left them there because I want to show you that you can hit ignore object size, and you can get rid of all these little stray bits. You can see them disappearing. Otherwise, all of those things are going to be cut out. Now, you don't want to ignore objects that are too big because then you'd be ignoring the very object you're trying to cut out. So let's just say an inch, an inch, right? That's how big we're going to ignore the objects. Now, the third way to get rid of any bits you don't want after we say okay is to get rid of them in the edit mode. We can, if there's still stray bits around, in the edit mode, we can trash them. Now, please don't trash these two because these two are the only images you can see because I'm toggling through them. Now, if you'd like a white outline distance around the stamped image like you have when you use your metal dies, this is not metal die machine. This is a electronic cutting machine. If you want the little outline distance, which you do, trust me, you do. It's pretty nice. You're going to go here to outline distance, and you want to hit 0.04 for your outline distance. And now we're going to cut a little white space around your two images. Okay, we're going to click OK, and we're going to select Cut. And now at this point, it doesn't matter if I turn back on my light because, and even though there's a glare on here, I just wanted to show you. I'm going to hit Start. There's a glare because it doesn't matter if I turn back on my light because now that I've done scanning, it doesn't matter that I shine light right through the machine. So when you're cutting, the light doesn't matter. Okay, so if your mat is not very sticky, I'm using painter's tape and it'll come off. And otherwise, you might want to give your paper a rub, but keep your fingers out of the rollers. Also, I wanted to mention if you're using a CM model, you would need to set your blade depth. I'm using an SDX model, so I don't have a blade depth. Hopefully it all came out. But if you do need to set your blade depth and you have a CM model, then you're going to set your blade depth to 4 for, this is called the basic white paper from Stampin' Up. It's the regular basic white, not the thick cardstock. So you need a blade depth of 4. But because I'm using an auto blade, there are no numbers on here, and you don't need to set your blade depth because it's an auto blade. So before I try to get this off, I want to test it because otherwise I have to take, okay, it's tested and it's fine. Okay, it's coming off very easily. So what I'm going to do is just use my spatula and get these off. Now, don't take this tape off yet because there's more. But wait, there's more. All right, first, a couple things to remember. I'm just going to put my silicone mud in here. This one is great. It's stamped the way it was. We still have to finish coloring it. This one, you want to erase all your little marks. Because, right? Because the artist, number one, erase them because you put a pencil there, right? And you should erase them. But the real reason you want to erase them is not just because you drew them in, but because the artist who created this image wanted you to have gaps in the image, right? So yes, you can fill in the gaps with the markers and all that, but still you want to be true to the main image. So you want to erase those marks. All right, so what I do is I take my tape, my leftover tape, and by the way, alcohol markers do bleed through there, and I get rid of any extra little marks, and I clean up with that. So now, before you remove the second piece of tape, you're going to get your, what I'm going to teach you before we color, so we've erased the marks, and we're going to color one of these, because I want to show you, like, full on how to put this on a card, right? But before we do that, I want to teach you about layering, right? We're moving along. This is a piece of distress gold cardstock, distress gold specialty paper, something like that. Okay, so it's in my catalog. My catalog's linked in the description of this video. As is, if you want the new catalog 2024, go ahead and request it in the link in the description of this video. Anywho, we want to put this part, right? I've already used this part. What I'm trying to show you now is that I want to put this up here because we're going to cut a bigger layer with gold to go around our stamped image. So, I'm going to show you this visually before I show you where to put the paper and everything else. So, I tried it both ways. If you recall, I told you needed to use an outline distance of 0.04 around your stamped image, and that gave you that white space. Now, if you use a 0.08 for this gold, you'll get a little tiny layer around it, which is pretty cool, right? I mean, I love having a 0.08 layer. However, not as cool as, let's put this down, as a 0.12. Okay, let's put this here. Let's put this on the envelope. Oh, there goes my card. Look how cool that is when you have a 0.12 outline distance. So that's what I'm showing you right now. Now, the only reason I said don't move the other paper yet is because to save paper, I had to go pick up my card. To save paper, you want to put this where this goes, right? So, in other words, if I put it up here, it's going to cut kind of right there. So I can put it down here. That way, because it only needs to go right where this was. Now I can peel this off. So I was just trying to show you that, like, if you're going to do this layering effect, right? Put your paper, and your light can be on and everything because we're not scanning anymore. Put this distressed gold cardstock make sure your area is covered so that you're cutting the next layer in the same area. All right, so that's good. Now all you need to do is, I'm going to turn it off, but you don't need to turn your light off. I'm only turning it off to let you see the settings. Okay, so let's go ahead and go. You're going to go back one step, and you're going to go to outline distance, and you're going to not hit 0.8 because it didn't look right. I mean, I thought it didn't. Again, it just doesn't. This one's 0.12. Looks much better. 0.08 is this one. You know, it's pretty cool. You got some good contrast there. It's just not as good as 0.12. Okay, so that's the setting for this, 0.12, outline distance. Click OK, click OK. You don't have to do anything else. You're just going back and changing the outline distance and cutting. Okay, so we're not scanning again because all we're doing, it's already scanned. The initial image is scanned in from before. And now we're just cutting a bigger layer. So now you've learned 2 tricks. Well, 3 tricks. You've learned the pencil trick, and then you learn the coloring in trick, and now you're learning the layering trick to put an extra layer here. And now I want to finish showing you how to color the stamped image. And we're going to put this up with dimensionals, pop it on our layer. Just grab some dimensionals. All right, so peel that off. Voila. If you knew which one was which, like, I think we had this one on this side. I mean, you do kind of want to match them up, right? So, like, if you have, say, remember I did a pencil trick on the right side one? So you want to match this one up with that. Now, why does it matter? Because of the little nibs. Sorry, I didn't get all the eraser marks. Okay. When I say nibs, like, each one is uniquely scanned in. This is not saved or anything. It's just scanned in as a vector, as an outline. So, like, this little nib down there is going to match up exactly, you see? So you want to match this up with that, and then this one with that. Now, it's just going to be slightly different, the way that, like, the edges got outlined. But still, try to match them up. All right, I'm going to unload the mat with that same button I loaded it with. And I'm going to turn my camera, and we're going to color, and I'm going to show you my examples. And then we are having fun and done. Let me grab my markers, because I only prepared one of my paper pumpkins and one of my, so I'm using cherry cobbler now. I prepared one paper pumpkin example, which has nothing to do with the ScanNCut. I just want to show you how cute the kit is this month. And then I prepared one ScanNCut card that I'm just going to make all my cards the same, I think. I'm just going to make these wreaths and put them on all the cards. Because why not? So I'm using Cherry Cobbler Dark. And then I'm using Cherry Cobbler Light. If your Cherry Cobbler doesn't look like mine, it's because mine's ancient and it's still going. It's still going strong. I don't even have the new style of the marker. So blending those two colors. Now we're gonna use the old olive again because we used it earlier. Let's see. All these colors, by the way, are the ones I used for this project. All these colors here. Put my little tray there. Okay, so we're gonna do old olive. Notice that there's little gaps even in that image, but it doesn't matter because they were inside the door, and the whole door, the outside of the door scanned in as one. I will check for questions, so please say hello, and if you have any questions, I'll address them. I just don't address them in real time because I like to just concentrate on the lesson, and then I go back and do that. As soon as I start checking on comments, the whole darn camera starts shaking, but it's okay. You guys will forgive me if you get a little dizzy. So I'm doing that with the old olive, you know, the light and dark. And now we're going to do pecan pie. Dark pecan pie. In the middle sections, I'm just coloring them in solid because it's a neutral color. You know, it's the door. These panels. And then I took the light pecan pie and I went behind the wreath a little because the wreath has that little hollow spot. So this is light pecan pie. We'll go ahead and brush around the whole door. Alcohol markers are important for giving your stamped image life. I mean, if you don't color something, it just doesn't look as nice. Unless, of course, you're trying not to color something. Sometimes you can stamp like an image tone on tone, and it's just you're stamping the silhouette of something, and that's in that case you don't color it. Like the card we made last night in the Crafting with You. See, now I'm coloring the light part behind the little wreath, like so. Now I'm going to take crumb cake, and now I'm going to do dark crumb cake around the door. I'll try to go around the outside like that. But it's tough because it's just thin, small marker, so we're just kind of do that. Get in there. So old olive, cherry cobbler, pecan pie, coordinated colors. Let's see, I think from this kit. But then also, but the crumb cake's a neutral one, so you can use crumb cake. This is the light crumb cake now. You can just use crumb cake. Oops. It's getting low. It's low. Ivory. I think this was my 800. But I'm just going to use that for the doorknob. This was a skin tone blend. I just bought a new crumb cake, but I can't find it. So we're just, hopefully this side works. I mean, I found my dark crumb cake, but somehow my light disappeared. Because I was coloring a bunch of mousse for these cards I was making. And that's why it's squeaking, guys. Sorry about that. My light crumb cake. It doesn't matter if it's, because it's lighter than the pecan pie, it can actually rub into the pecan pie a little. Sorry for that squeaky noise. My marker is running low, so I can't find my new one. So crumb cake and pool party are the colors I use the most of. Okay, another color for this project was a coordinating color for the paper pumpkin kit was lemon lolly. And so I just take for the little stained glass window, I just took the lemon lolly and just did 2 dark and 2 light. And that way it's just contrast a little bit, right? Instead of blending each section. And one of my projects is not complete without the wink of Stella. That's the glitter brush. Put glitter over everything, right? Glitter, glitter, glitter. And that just not only shines, see, it not only makes it sparkle, and of course I could squeeze this glitter brush to get some more out, but it also goes along with that paper in the background that's also sparkly. And of course, you can even add bling. But there's already so much bling on the card. Wait till you see. I used the add-on cards for the Paper Pumpkin kit. So only subscribers can get what I'm showing you. So my Paper Pumpkin, if you're not familiar with it, it's a subscription. So if you want to subscribe and you're in the US, you can subscribe with me. If you're in another country, you can't subscribe with me. I'm only allowed to have US customers. Sorry. So the subscription is only available in US and Canada, but I'm a US demonstrator. So you can subscribe for 1 monthly fee, and then you get this surprise kit each month. I was elated when I saw the kit because so some people are like card kits, but I get tired of like, I don't know, 9 months out of the year we get card kits. So I was excited to get this packaging kit because I already had the cards as an add-on. We were allowed to get this add-on kit this month with 5x7 cards. I'm just using dimensionals to pop that up. And in this, so I'm going to show you the add-on. These are the add-on cards. Now look what happens when you don't color the image. Hello, how plain Jane. But it would still look cute, right? Now I know my door is just leading into outer space, but that's okay. I could put a house there too. But I'm just kind of making it like that, like a little door nestled in the woods. It'll be like a fairy door. All right, let's find because this card has so much on it already. There's so much bling on the card. I'm just using Seal Plus that you don't even need. I'm just putting it down here because the trees are up there. So you don't like need anything. Look at all the sparkle glitter that was already in there. Some cherry cobbler. The Paper Pumpkin kits didn't come with those cards, by the way. Those cards were part of the Paper Pumpkin kit. Is a 3D packaging kit. I'm just gonna stamp one of these real quick. So the 3D packaging kit means that it came with these little houses, which I'm going to show you. Hopefully that's a stiff enough surface to do this stamp. So they give you the kits come with little banners and stickers and bags and little houses and linen twine. I mean, it came with a bunch of stuff to make 3D little houses for candy. So I do want to show you what the kit looked like, but then what I'm showing you right now, what I'm making is the add-on kit. So only subscribers can get whenever we have an add-on like that, because we never do 5x7 cards. But we did this month, and as of this, right before publishing this video, going live, I checked in the Stampin' Up store, and the add-on is still available because I don't think people know how cool it is. That's the only reason it didn't run out. Once people see how cool this add-on is, they're going to be like snatching it up. So because you get like for $14, you get 20 of these giant cards, like 5x7 cards with the envelopes. And they're not like flimsy cards. Well, I mean, they're not like as thick as the Stampin' Up cardstock cards. I mean, that's like the best of the best. But they are like really the best kind of 5x7 cards I've seen because they have the glitter already mixed into them. And the envelopes are beautiful. So what I did is I just put some of the linen thread in there. And I put this over here so I wouldn't block the little moon. And I used cherry cobbler. So here's the card. Here's the one I made earlier. These are the beautiful envelopes that come with it in this add-on kit. And that is, like I said, it's looking at the other side. Now, if you're like inclined to cut these apart and make new cards out of them, this would be nice too. You can make A2 cards, change up the backgrounds, but I like it just the way it is. And I think I'm going to just make my cards like this. Or I don't really have any left though. When I say make my cards like this, I gave one of these or two, I think, to each Paper Pumpkin subscriber. So if you're a new subscriber, I might have 2 to give you. I really don't have many more after that. I think I have 6 left. So, but this is what I would do with my cards if I were, getting a whole pack of them. And I'll probably get some more because they are so nice. And tomorrow we're having a last chance sale. So it's the time to stock up on some last chance items. And then you could pop these in your cart too if you're a subscriber. So that's what you do. That's how to do it. Before I show you the thing that's not ScanNCut, I just want to go over one more time. What we did is we turned on the ScanNCut STX 125. Right there it is, 120. There's the model number right up there. Okay, you learned how to use the STX 125. I'm just turning it back down now. And in this tutorial, you learned how to stamp a stamped image, scan it in, use direct cut to cut it out. But the first time we tried it, I purposely showed you that it didn't figure out that this was one image. It tried to cut out this and the windows and the door, and it would have been a hot mess. Then I showed you the pencil trick where you color in all of these gaps with the pencil. Just any pencil. I get asked this a lot. Just any number 2. I'm just using a number 2 pencil. Now, but don't use the pink eraser to erase your pencil marks. You want to use, like I use an electronic eraser, or you want to use a white eraser so it doesn't leave marks. So then, after that, I showed you that instead of using the pencil, one way to save yourself time, if you know what you're going to be coloring it in as anyway, and you know your coordinating colors, which in this case, I knew Old Olive was my coordinating color, so is Mossy Meadow, etc., etc. I knew that was my coordinating color, so I was able to color with the blends, and then that filled in the gaps for me. So I didn't need to use the pencil trick because the blends markers filled in the gaps for me. And then after that, we cut this out using a 0.04 outline distance. And then after that, we made another layer, which is your next tip and trick, which we made another layer using the Distress Gold paper. And that one was a 0.12 outline distance. All right, so I'm going to say hello, show you what the directions of the kit look like, and show you something I just made with the 3D portion of the kit. Hello, Janet. Oh, you already got yours too. I'm glad you got it. I was so excited to see this in my mailbox today. Hello, Deborah from Australia, and Debbie, and Laura, and Lisa, and Debbie. Thank you for the congrats. Okay, loading. Do you have a hard time loading the mat? No. If you have a hard time loading your mat, you need to clean your rollers. I have a whole video, a bunch of series on maintenance. Clean these rollers with baby wipes, alcohol wipes, or something. Well, probably baby wipes are better. And get all this, grease off there. You want them to be able to grip better, and then, you might need to lift this up, to clean them better, and then lock it back down. So if you're having a hard time loading your mat, try that. Also watch my tips. You might need to sand the top of your mat. There's lots of tips and tricks on maintenance. So, check all that out. All right, hello. Okay, so Judy. Yep. It needs a tiny pencil mark on the bottom of the tree. Oh, you were talking about earlier, right, when I was doing it. Yes. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Phil. Hello, Phil and Linda from StampCut and Create. And Melody and Linda and Kathy from Backyard Stamper. Hey, Debbie Salinas, thank you for joining my membership. You get a free course to my making and selling crafts class, which I just launched a couple days ago, and you get that for free. So thank you. And there's coupons in the links too. Okay, great question about recommending coloring here. Let me show you this. By the way, I just want to, because I'm almost done here. I do recommend that you color after you cut. So typically, I always color later for several reasons. If you were to spend all this time coloring and then this machine messes up and doesn't cut out your image nicely, you're like, oh my goodness, I just spent 10 minutes coloring the darn door and the blade slipped. Okay, so you understand that's the first reason to color later. The second reason is put these all in your bucket of crafty goodness, save them for later, and color them according to the project you're doing and make them coordinate. Now, I already knew what colors I'm going to make these ahead of time. But if I didn't know, then it would have been better to color them later. But the only reason I colored them first is obviously for the reason of you want to color them first if you're going to be able to not have to use the pencil trick by coloring them. I hope this all makes sense, guys. I hope it all makes sense. So the horse and sleigh. Put the horse and sleigh. Oh, if I only had the horse and sleigh. Inside joke. All right. No, definitely that's a great thing to put on this card too, the horse and sleigh across it. Yes, I colored. So I colored before to close the gaps because I knew the green. Thank you, Janet. You answered my question. You even answered it better than I did. I colored before in this particular case because I knew the trees were going to be green, Old Olive, and I knew that would help close the gaps in. And if I didn't color, the stamp wouldn't have been recognized without the pencil trick. Hello, Louise from Canada, and thank you guys. All right, so this is how I modified this a bit. And I'll probably do a separate video on this paper pumpkin kit, seeing what else I can do. But there's really not much else to do. These are amazingly awesome. All right, so they gave us these little 3D houses. And I was like, oh my God, giddy with joy. Of course, I wish I would have had them before my craft fair because my 3D items were going like crazy. I didn't want to use, they gave us this tear and tape, and I didn't want to just seal them shut. So I used Velcro. Of course, that little Velcro balled up. It balled up, so I have to fix that. So I'm using Velcro to make it sort of like a reusable little thing, and I have to put another piece on there. So you see, that's what I did there, instead of just sealing it shut. Okay, and then I only used 2 wreaths instead of 3. And the other thing I did is I don't really like mossy meadow. It's just not a happy color for me, so I used cherry cobbler to stamp in. So they give you a mossy meadow stamping spot, but I just don't like this color. So I just didn't use it. So like it's up to you, but I still used a coordinating color. They give you tear and tape to seal this shut, but I didn't use it because I don't want to seal it shut. I'm going to use Velcro. Of course, I got to fix my Velcro situation. Okay, this is what they come in like. Are these so cute or what? Sparkles. So I was thinking one thing you could do to make a lot of cards, if you wanted to, but I'm using these for 3D, is you can cut these apart and put these on your cards. So you could just do this. But I would think that's a waste of the 3D box. So here's what I'm saying. Like you can put this right there. Warm wishes from our home to yours. Cut this right along here. Cut out the house. I might do 1 or 2 like that. But I just, you know what I'm saying? These are so cute the way they are that I didn't want to do that. Okay, so my bag of goodies, this is what fits in it because you're probably wondering. So you have your, see the side and it stands up. This is what fits in there. A Ghirardelli peppermint bark. And the bags come with it, guys. But the bags and the stickers. Ghirardelli peppermint square. Here, I'll just show you. This is what I stuffed in there. And oops, the sticker's going to rip. Never mind. I wrapped one of the Hershey Nuggets with almonds in designer series paper to coordinate. I used a peppermint stick, a little mini candy cane, a mini snowman, a Ghirardelli snowman, and a Ghirardelli peppermint bark. So that's what will fit in there really nicely. And you could, I guess you could shove it in there later. But what I just shoved it in there and then shut the top. And it stays pretty good. And then you put the little tag on there. And you could ink up the side of the tag. So that's all I did. I mean, simple, super simple. And then in this little picture, they have like 3 wreaths. Or do they? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they put a 3rd wreath right there on the middle door. And I thought, nah, doesn't need a 3rd wreath there. So I think they're cute the way they are. And the only other thing I would do, personally, maybe, and I might do this once, is I'd probably put little sides in here. Like if it depends, like what I'm putting in here. Or you could put a glue dot on it. Maybe not the sides. I don't think it really needs the sides at this point. But I mean, if you could put a glue dot to hold your bag in place, one-dimensional, kind of stick it on the back, or just shut this pretty tightly. It's up to you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this tips and tricks session and that you'll give this a try with whatever materials and stamps that you already have. And that is all for now. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. So, yeah, thank you, Michelle and Ginger and Luis. All right. Thank you for your attention and have a great evening.